The Blocktalk podcast started because of my passion for the property management industry. I wanted to start a conversation and add some value within the industry with a diverse range of people and professionals who can add something extra. As we start out, my aim is that the podcast offers some useful insight into a variety of views, opinions, thoughts, and foresights from our guests, who include business leaders and industry experts. If you enjoy the podcast and want to find out any other information, head on over to brianwelsh.co.uk. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blocktalk podcast with me, Brian Welsh, and Jax Bruce. Hi, Jax. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. So you're right?
Yes, I'm very well. Okay, so this is our first foray into video. For our first video interview, we thought we would interview me for our leadership series. It's coming up to the end of the year, and I've wanted to do this one. But we've just had so many other people who wanted to be on the podcast and other people who agreed to come on that we delayed this one. So Jax, I think you're interviewing me today.
I am indeed, yes. So today, as part of our We Talk Leadership series, we're turning the tables on the host of the Blocktalk podcast and chatting to Brian Welsh. Brian is the MD of CPL Software, Blockworks and Inspect, and is an exec director for a legal software firm. Brian and the team have been providing software solutions to the property management industry for over 10 years now. Almost 12, is it?
Yes, it is. We started 2010.
2021, yeah. So almost 13 actually then.
Yep.
Yeah, and Brian is also a Clifton Strengths coach, which we'll talk a little bit about today as well. So, hi Brian. Are you all right?
Yes, I'm good. I'm very well. Good. I'm not a great fan of video, but hey, here we go.
Well, I mean, yeah, most of it will be going out on the usual channels anyway, just as audio. And then we'll use snippets for social media. So
yeah, I wish I'd shaved this morning anyway, but never mind.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. So to kick things off then, tell us about your leadership style.
Okay, so this is something that I'm actually quite passionate about because in the beginning of my career, leadership style that I was exposed to, and you know, things have moved on a lot, but the management styles that I was exposed to, and not necessarily just who I worked for, but businesses I worked with as well, or it was not the nicest place in the world to be. Yeah. And I think people have moved on a lot. And I think my early experiences kind of made me want to be different in the way that I deal with leadership. So from my point of view, you do not employ people and then tell them what to do. You employ people who are good at what they do, are experts in what they do. You give them a kind of clear line of sight and let them get on with their job. And yes, you've got to KPI them, and yes, you've got to look at whatever their tasks and priorities and where we want to be by the end of a month or a quarter or whatever. But it's not about micromanaging people. It's about letting people do their job and let them make mistakes as well. Because if you don't let people make mistakes, then they're never going to learn. You know, so you've got to let them fail. And you know, you got to make sure that you have something in place so that if they do fail, you can pick it up again. But I mean, over the years, I've had various kind of different ways to deal with this. So in a role that I had I've had recently when I had a kind of direct report, we had a great rule, okay, and we put this together, and it was like a contract. I don't know where I got this from. I think I got it from the 1 Minute Manager, the Monkey edition, and effectively we had a contract between each other, and there were certain things that this person could do. And we had that written down in our contract. This is the stuff you can do without asking me, okay? And this is the stuff you need to ask me. And it's dead easy to put these things together. You know, I mean, if depending on what size of business you are, I guess we had things. So if there was anything financial, then up to a certain limit, no problem at all. You can just fill your boots. Anything above there, you need to talk to me. So my leadership style kind of is a moving. I guess it's quite dynamic in the fact that the or flexible, I should say, probably, in the, depending on who I'm dealing with, we'll structure a contract of how we interact, and that way these, whoever they are, know what they're allowed to do, and know what they need to ask. So, but from my point of view, I mean, you don't employ people and then tell them what to do. You employ people who are better than you. Someone, I can't remember what book. I know we're going to come on to books at the end, and I've read dozens of them. But I read one. "Make yourself the dumbest person in the room" was a phrase in this book, and it was. What? I mean, I love the sound of my own voice. Yeah, I mean, it comes out of my Clifton Strengths assessment, and anyone who knows me will say that. And but just stay quiet, make yourself the dumbest person in the room, let everyone else get on with their job. That's kind of where I come from.
So kind of being an observer almost, and stepping in when you need to, I guess. And
yeah, and you need people to grow, and they're never going to grow if you're always on top of them and micromanaging them. And I just it's just not my style. Don't get me wrong. I mean, things can fail, and then you look at them and you deal with it, and you maybe reassess and kind of realign what those rules are. But you've got to do it to make it as easy as it is for people to progress in their career. Another thing I really love, and it was Crawford that introduced me to this, and that's RACI. So RACI template for our business. So within this business, we know who's responsible for everything, who's accountable for everything, who needs to be informed of everything, and who needs to be consulted. Got those last two the wrong way around. And that helps as well to make decisions. So, I mean, I started CPL. There was 3 of us 12, 13 years ago. In fact, there was 2 of us 12, 13 years ago when we started, one doing software and one doing tech practically. And now there's things that I just don't need to know about. Yeah. But as long as I know that they're being dealt with, and there's a method to how they're being dealt with, then just let people get on with their job.
Yeah, I guess it's leadership style is going to change as the leader changes, and also the environment changes, and being adaptable, isn't it? And that's going to change as our business grows as well, I suppose, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I mean, traditional leadership styles were very much kind of authoritarian certainly in my experiences of a number of different companies. And it just doesn't need to be like that. People don't want to come into work and get bullied and go home thinking they don't want to be there. I mean, I read an article the other day about the amount of people, I can't remember what the percentage is, so I got this wrong. I can't remember. It was a number of Sundays ago, and it was talking about the fear on a Sunday night that people experience, stress and anxiety about having to go to work the next day. And I have to say, there's probably periods of my career where I have experienced that, but I also believe, and I said this to someone the other day, and they told me I was talking BS. But if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I mean, I don't even think of work as work. I think of it more as, it's just, I love doing it. It's something I really enjoy. And I enjoy downtime and stuff like that as well. But it's very much, to me, that you've got to enjoy it. If you spend half your life in work, why would you not enjoy it?
Yeah. Yep. Cool. And you touched on Clifton Strengths there. So has learning about Clifton Strengths influenced your leadership style at all?
Yeah, very much so. So, and this was one thing that someone once said to me, and I've never forgot it. People wake up every day and think they're the same as everyone else. You know what I mean? And they're not. Every single person on this planet is completely unique. I mean, there are 34 Clifton Strengths. You have your top 5 and your top 10. Your top 5 is your absolute go-tos, and your top 10 are as well. I mean, your 6 through 10 are as well. And as you go further down Clifton, you get to stuff that's your what's called lesser strengths. And I never realized this. I just thought everyone was the same. And once you actually get to realize these sort of things, you then deal with people in a different way, and you support them as well. So there are four domains in Clifton. There's strategic thinking, there is execution, there's relationships, people and relationships, and influencing. And Jax, this will be no surprise to you and no surprise to anyone in this office. People and relationships, they don't happen with me. It's just not me. It's just you don't. They're blue in Clifton. I don't think you see one until about 17 in my profile, which means it's just not happening for me. So I have to have people within my organization, in my circle, who can deal with that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So what does success look like? To me, it's about growth. It's about innovation. It's about money. It's about cash. You ask Crawford that question, what's success look like? Happy customers, happy staff. Yeah, two entirely different, same business, same company, same direction, but two entirely different things. So you've got to have those people. And it was explained to me in a different way. You know, someone comes up and says, shall we do this new thing? Yes, great, let's do it. Well, how much money are we going to make, and how much better for our clients is this going to make, and how much efficiency can we think? And then someone says, how do you think the staff are going to feel about that? And everyone's sitting there looking at them going, of course we care, but it's just not our go-to. So that's why Clifton's all about having a whole raft of different strengths within a team. There is and in fact, when I was introduced to Clifton, the first time I was introduced to it, I was introduced to by someone who said, here's my top 5. I'm employing people who are as close to that, as if they were the de facto brilliant thing in the world. And it's like, no. And then, of course, my business coach then introduced me to it. And he's like, that's just rubbish, Brian. You know, the whole point of it is that you get people with different strengths to your team. So I tend to sit around the strategy and influencing domains. People doesn't really happen. Execution does to a certain degree, but certainly not as much as the other ones. And that means I need people who do, and I need people who understand relationships. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't have a relationship. I mean, you know, you're influencing themes within the influencing domain as well can help you kind of build rapport and these sort of things and influence decisions and make business acquaintances and these sort of things and relationships with personal life as well. It's just that the whole how does something affect somebody is just not the first thing that comes to my head. So yeah, I find it amazingly useful. And in fact, I don't use it enough. I mean, the other day I was having a chat with one of my fellow directors in another business. We were talking about why people weren't learning from things that had happened before. You just need to pull up that team, and practically everybody in the team has got futuristic, which means they're all thinking about the future. Yeah. And the context theme within Clifton is the one where people look behind to see what's happened. So you either look, well, you can have both, but context about looking into the past and making decisions based on that. Futuristic is very much about just looking into the future. Nobody had context, so you know they're not even looking at it behind. I worked for a company once that had about 4 MDs in the 3 years that I was there. And every MD came in and said, right, we're going to do this. And we were like, we've done that before and it didn't work. No, but it's going to work with me. Yeah, every single one of them. And it's like, so I doubt any of them had context. Because, you need to look back, analyze, see what worked, and you need to learn from it. So that whole look back and learn thing. But yeah, Clifton fascinates me utterly. We Clifton Strength anybody before we employ to see where they'll fit into the business and how they'll fit into the business. We Clifton teams so that we look at how the team dynamic will work. In fact, in a few weeks' time, I'm running Clifton team sessions with my Insight business, with my Insight Legal Software business, just to see how people interact and to see where possibly there are things missing. And if there are things missing, how do we do that? So I am not a detail person in any way, shape, or form. I'm not an overly organized person. So I have an assistant who organizes me and deals with these sort of things, and that's my support. Yeah. So you need to find people or systems to support you. So.
Yeah. So you touched on the sort of differences between you and Crawford and how they probably, I would then say, complement each other. Does this influence the culture of at CPL Software? What is the culture at CPL Software?
Okay, so our employees are the bedrock of our organization. Finding talent in this country at the moment is extremely, extremely difficult. And we try our best to build a culture and environment where our staff our team can learn and they can grow and these sort of things. And it's actually been made massively more difficult in the last 2 or 3 years with remote working, because we had 2 offices up until COVID, one in Glasgow and one in Southampton. Well, CPL did. Everyone went to the office every day. You built rapport, you built friendship, you built all these things. Nowadays, we have people scattered around the country who don't have an office, and we still have our 2 offices. Glasgow is used. Glasgow's just today, and so are you, Jack, but in a different room. We use our Glasgow office Tuesdays and Thursdays. Southampton is a storage room practically at the moment. So even if the world went back to the office, there was a number of people in our organization who just couldn't, because they don't live anywhere near one of our offices. So that being the case, you've got to have ways to keep people connected. Okay, so we have a meeting rhythm within our organization. We huddle every morning. So everyone huddles in this organization every single day, talks about how their day went the previous day, what they've got on that day, if they've got any stucks, and anything else they want to chat about. Doesn't take a huge amount of time, and the whole point of this is so that everyone gets an interaction with the teammate during the day, but also is so that if we have any challenges within our business, that basically escalates up the business by 9:45 every morning. If there's a challenge, if there's a problem, it is discussed by 9:45 in the morning. So that helps us keep on top of what's going on. But I'd say it's a friendly kind of place. Nobody's, it's not a place where there's a huge amount of bad language. Well, no, there's a lot of bad language, but all in jest. There's not a lot of place where there's a lot of kind of aggression or anything like that. It's a very friendly place to work, but very challenging as well. We do challenge, and we make sure people challenge as much as they can. And I guess we try and make it motivational as well. Make sure people know where they're going. We understand what people want out of their career, and we talk to them about it, because I mentioned earlier, getting good talent is really, really, really difficult. And there's this thing called A players, which I've touched on previous things we've discussed in other podcasts. And a definition of an A player is the top 10% of a given job in a given location for a given salary. 10% of people. Okay, now having A players across your business is difficult to get, and you can grow towards it, but if you put someone who's not very good or is toxic within an environment where you get A players and you tolerate that, the good guys will just leave, because they don't want to. If they're sitting beside someone who's being paid, or their perception is they're being paid the same and they're not as good. So one thing that we do, or one thing I try to do, and I'm probably not very good at this, one thing I try to do is fail fast. If someone is no good or they're toxic, they don't belong in your business. Do you know, at the end of the day, there's a place for them somewhere. It's just maybe not within your business. So I would say fail fast. I can't remember. I always thought this was Steve Jobs. I don't know if it was. It was someone else maybe with an Apple who said, better have a hole in an asshole, meaning better have an open hire than having someone in there that's toxic. So it is there's only 16, 17 people in CPL. So you've got to have a team that works and can work together. So yeah, I would say that's probably what we're striving for.
Cool. Great. So moving on to the more sort of client side of things, equal business stature is a phrase that I've been hearing a lot about lately, and I've been doing a bit of work around it as well. Can you tell us about it and how and why CPL is adopting this model?
Okay, so this phrase was introduced to me by a guy who's our head of sales in Insight, a guy called Josh Dallowell. And Josh introduced me to it because one of our biggest challenges at Insight up a couple of years ago before Josh joined was that we would get demos booked, and I think we had about a 30% not turning up rate for demos, which is pretty high. You know, if you're doing 10 demos a week and 3 people don't turn up for it, that's pretty high. You've prepped for that demo, you've done everything for that demo, and then you do the demo, and then you say to the client, right, I'll call you next week, and then you call the client or the prospect. Sorry, you call the prospect the following week, and they don't answer the phone. You email them and they don't answer. You've given this person 2, 3, 4 hours of your time, and then you don't even get a response. And that to me is unacceptable. You know, this is the business that we're in is very much about solution selling. It's very much about helping our clients. It's not about selling software. This software is just the thing that allows you to provide the service to that client. And that is a two-way street. Yeah. So just because you're being paid by someone does not mean that they can treat you badly. And I find myself in this. So I emailed someone the other week. I needed some wood for my fence, and I emailed them just to ask them if they had any wood and how much it was. And they got me the price, and I then didn't respond to them. And 2 or 3 days later, I got a chaser, and I made sure I responded because I had that guy go do a whole load of work for me to work out this price. He sent it to me. I didn't bother even replying. Now, okay, I was busy, but that's no excuse. Yeah, you have to equal business stature to me is you have an equal standing in a relationship, no matter who's the client and who's the supplier, and you have to act with respect for each other. And in fact, one of my clients, who I'll not mention his name because he is mentioned on our podcast. He has a phrase. He has a phrase where everybody's a client. Okay. Now that is whether, and he means whether they are a client, whether they're a team member, whether a director, whether a supplier, contractor, whatever you want to call them, they should all be treated in exactly the same way. And that is a form of EBS for me. Yeah. So yeah, I just think that the days of treating a supplier in a non-respectful manner should be gone. Yeah, there should be a huge amount of respect, but in business and in life actually, but specifically for this subject in business. And I think personally that if you manage to get EBS, you create a relationship that is hugely beneficial to both parties. Yeah, but I mean, if it's the opposite to that is just transactional. I want to buy something from you. Okay, you can buy something from me. There you go. I really don't care. They don't care. How's that benefiting anybody? Yeah, you know, if you have EBS, you know, you're us as a service provider are going to do everything that we can to make your life better and your business better. And if we do that as a partnership, then then I think the outcome can only be infinitely better than if it was transactional.
Yeah. Cool. And what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
I wish I'd known that 90% of the country is just winging it. Because they are, I don't know. I just remember my father was was in business anyway, a very reserved, professional kind of person. And I just believed the whole world was like that. And I believed that, I don't know, it was just, I had this belief. And then you get into business and you work for people and you just have this this mindset that they know everything and they know what they're doing and all of these sort of things. And yeah, 90% of them don't. I mean, hell, everyone's learning. Everything's a school day. I just wish I'd known that in the beginning. I'm not suggesting that I would maybe have done anything differently if I'd known that, but I wish I'd known that in the beginning.
That's what I was just going to say. What would you have done differently if you had known that?
I don't think I would. I remember speaking to a guy who was an finance director for a building surveying, and I used to work for a business that did legal software, property software, but also did general commercial and did a lot of builders merchants. And I remember chatting. I was working late one night. I don't know. I was in my early to mid 30s. And I was chatting to this guy, and he said to me, and I was talking about, I don't know what was next for me and things like that. And he said to me, "Are you sure you want to own your own business before you're 40? You need to have some experience in what you're doing, and not experience what you're doing, but you've got to have built experience in business and in life before making that step." And there's some phenomenal businessmen who are younger than 40, and I'm not suggesting that it's the same for everyone. But certainly for me, I don't think I would have done anything differently if I'd had a different path. I mean, to be fair, my path has almost been. I say to people, I've been lucky, and they say, "Well, you've made your own luck, though, and you've done things to make it happen," and that may be, but I was in the right place at the right time for CPL anyway. So
yeah. It takes a lot of guts, I think, and to actually say that. I think that's the situation for right place, right time. And I think for me, the right time, because now anybody setting up a business, if you wanted to set up a burger joint, you're not going to have a massive success against giants like McDonald's, so all of those businesses that are now, global corporations have all started around the same time and have all, sort of snowballed. So I suppose it just depends if you get in at the start and things like that, doesn't it? But but at the same time, a lot of people could be in that, but they don't have the resilience or the personality or the risk taking, or anything like that. So but a lot of people, I think, certainly having worked in this sort of startup space for a while, a lot of people, there's maybe a bit of unwillingness to acknowledge that, the time and the situation and has a lot to do with people's success. It's actually something that a philosopher, Alain de Botton, talks about. It was him that I saw talking about it from the School of Life, which I found quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, no. I think the risk averse thing is the right situation, or the right thing to talk about, because my father was a massively intelligent man and had a lot of opportunities over his career to go out on his own or to go do other things, and he never did. He worked for the same company his entire life, and when I started my own business, he was like, "Sure you want to do this?" And every time I saw him, he would go, "Are you going out tonight? Should you not be working? Or have you got enough money?" and all of this sort of stuff. And he put it down to two things. His personality. He said that he thinks my personality is far different to his, and my attitude can kind of get up and go and want to make a success. But the other thing he said was, you're willing to take risks, and comes back to that whole failing thing. I mean, because we've had a conversation, and you were there at the time, or around CPL at the time. But I put money into something that failed, and what did I learn from it? A huge amount, but if you don't try, you're not going to do it. But there's people disrupting markets all over the world, and a lot of people. So and Scotland's a great place as well for innovation, and there's a huge amount of startups, and especially in tech, which is hugely fascinating for me as well. So yeah, I think you've got to have a set. If you're risk averse, and I'm not, then I think these sort of things may challenge you. Yeah. And I was actually, fortunate, unfortunate. When I started CPL, I was single. Yeah, I had 2 children, but I was single. So I'm not convinced to this day, if I'd still been married, I would have done this. Yeah, I really have no idea whether I would. I think I would have taken the risk myself, but I'm not so convinced I wouldn't have been convinced otherwise. Yeah.
Cool. So if you were going to write a book about leadership, what would it be called, and what would be your message?
Can I swear? You can bleep this bit. Get over your fucking self. I think because I have we've spoken about this, and I've spoken about this many times, about having imposter syndrome and these sort of things, and also you just need to be you. We spoke about Clifton. We spoke about everyone being unique. Okay, and there is no set rules in this world. Yeah, I don't have a degree. I didn't do very well at school. I did go to college and get a diploma in computing and was a developer for a bit of time. I wasn't a very good developer, which tend to be why I sort of migrated to the business side. But anybody or everybody is capable of making a difference. Yeah, and sometimes you've just got to. I used this phrase the other day as well, and I apologize if you don't like swearing, whoever's listening, but I do swear a lot. Sometimes you've just got to fucking do it. Yeah. And that's one of my biggest challenges with business. It's inertia. It's procrastination and things not happening quick enough. So I think I would write a book about whoever you are, you have the ability to run your own business and be successful, or be successful and not run your own business. Anybody has the ability to do it. But it's all about making sure things happen, and making sure you know where you want to get to, and then just work back from there. Be a pretty short book, but then writing a vocabulary is not my forte.
So how has your ability to deal with difficult situations changed over the years? Has it?
I think I used to be really, really intolerant person, and I really did not suffer fools gladly at all. And I think if you ask my other half, she'd probably say I'm still pretty intolerant. But yeah, I think my view of the world has changed massively in the last kind of 5 or 6 years. Maybe it's age, I don't know. But I certainly deal with difficult situations from a far more pragmatic point of view now. Don't get me wrong, I catastrophize and I spiral when shit happens. But I think it's just honesty. It's all about just having a conversation and resolving the issue. If it's a client, just solve it. If it's an employee and it's not working out, just deal with it, whereas I probably didn't approach it that way before. I mean, I'm not a lover of difficult conversations. I mean, I'll have them, but it's not something I massively enjoy doing. Yeah. But you just got to do it. It comes back to the book. Just fucking do it.
So what's next for Brian Welsh?
Good question. Okay, so I've got I'm involved in about 3 or 4 different things at the moment, and I'm 52 years of age. I wouldn't like to think I'm finished. I think I've got a couple more in me, a couple more businesses, or possibly I love coaching. I do peer coaching within Insight, and actually we should really look at doing that within CPL as well. I really enjoy that, and I really enjoy doing coaching sessions from a Clifton point of view as well, but more from a how does it affect business point of view rather than just for coaching point of view. So either another, not necessarily a startup, maybe something that I can get involved in that's already been going, because my role over the last couple of years has very much changed in CPL and in Insight to be more of a strategic kind of growth kind of role, and I'd like to think that can give other businesses some value. So maybe a bit of non-exec work, I'd enjoy that. Maybe just a bit of coaching from exec coaching and these sort of things, because the problem is when you're in it, it's so difficult to see it. Yeah. Whereas if someone is standing on the outside, challenging and probing and asking the right questions, I mean, it's bloody uncomfortable sometimes, being asked difficult questions about your business, because what does that person know about my business? How could they come in and ask me these questions? But that's the sort of stuff I enjoy. I enjoy kind of finding an issue and making a difference. Well, significance is high in my Clifton Strengths, and that's all about making a difference. So I enjoy uncovering problems and solving them, and in business and these sort of things. So yeah, I think I've probably got 1 or 2 left in me before I go and play golf very badly for the rest of my life, as I've been playing it for the last 35 years badly. But also, yeah, a bit of non-exec work would be good fun. I'd love to be able to add value to a business that's already running. I think it would probably be in tech, to be perfectly honest. Tech is where I've always lived, is where anything I've been involved in has been. So I probably wouldn't move out of that unless someone really did twist my arm on my back.
Great. So finally, who are the 3 people who have been the most influential to you and why?
That is a very, very, very good question. Okay. I've not mentioned any names in this one, but I had a boss who I worked for a number of years ago. I only worked for him about 3 years. He bought the business that I worked in, and I then, once he bought that, I ran that business for a period of time. And he taught me a huge amount about what makes people tick. And he was an old traditional guy. I mean, I don't know what age he would be now, probably in his late 70s. And he taught me a huge amount about what makes people tick. He taught me a huge amount about business. I mean, I worked for 15 years for someone who owned their own business, and I worked for them, and I kind of took that business over when he sold. But then I got exposed to this kind of larger company, and then when that one was sold, I worked for the 5th biggest software company in the UK at the time, which told me that I didn't want to be in the corporate world, and I wanted to go back to smaller businesses, which is why I started CPL. But he was hugely influential in my understanding of business. Yeah. Number 3 is going to be a difficult one, by the way. Number 2, my business coach, actually, he's been my business coach since COVID started, I guess. And I never thought I needed a business coach. I never thought that I needed it or anything like that. And he opened my eyes to a huge amount of things and challenges me on it every 2 weeks in how I approach things, and he's, in fact, it's him that's convinced me to do bloody podcasts by video, because audio's fine for me. But anyway, so this might be the only one we ever do, Jax. Yeah, he's pushed me to do a number of things, and also to think about what I want and these sort of things. And yeah, he's been hugely influential in the last couple of years and made me think about all sorts of things. And in fact, it's funny because he asked me a question when I first, or we discussed something when I first started dealing with him, and it was like, "Do you think you're the finished article?" And I went, "God, no. I learn something every single day." But you'd be amazed the amount of people that I've asked that question to, and they've said yes. And that to me is like, oh my God. So you do not think you can ever be different or better than you are today, or you're so arrogant to think you are the best. And he's opened my eyes to, and it was him that introduced me to Clifton in the real way. And he's massively opened my eyes to these sort of things. And I continue to have a session with him every 2 weeks. And apart from this annoying that he manages to play golf 4 times a week, and I never get to play hardly at all. But anyway. And thirdly, right, this is difficult actually, because there's been hugely influential people in my life. My parents, from various kind of things. My other half, and various friends. But actually, the other person, now this really did blow my mind. Okay. So, because my twin brother Andrew's a sales director in the water industry, and he works in corporate, and he absolutely loves it. Yeah, stands up in front of hundreds of people and talks, which, as you know, Jax, is not something I could do. In fact, this is even a stretch for me. The thing that blew my mind was, how can we're not identical twins medically, okay, but we do look very alike, and we've grown up in pretty much same environment, everything like that. Our Clifton Strengths could not be any more different. Yeah, they are entirely different. And he understands more about culture and teams and everything that surrounds these sort of things, far better than me. And he spends a lot of time driving up and down the road from Scotland to England, because I think most of his business is in England. And we chat on the phone a huge amount about, culture and people and getting the best out of your people. He teaches me so much. And I mean, that just comes naturally to him. Yeah. Whereas it's really something that I need to work at. It is unbelievable. And we have more time now because he drives an electric bloody car. So he has to sit in a service station for half an hour, charge the damn thing. So,
it's funny.
I wind him up about a lot. So
I don't know if you've heard of someone called Gabor Mate. Nope. He's a doctor and psychologist. I saw a post actually on Instagram this morning. He was being asked about siblings and how brothers and sisters who have the exact same parents in the exact same household can be so different. But someone had asked about how does that work with twins and identical twins. So that's interesting that you've mentioned that.
We're not identical medically, but we are. But we had the same. I mean, everybody's different. I mean, my eldest son is doing a master's in AI at Edinburgh. My youngest son's in the army in Portsmouth. 2 entirely different people, and it always does amaze me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I work in tech. Andrew's an engineer. My father was both my father and my twin brother were electrical engineers, or are electrical engineers. So I guess engineering and tech is reasonably close, but yeah, it does utterly amaze me how unique and different people are.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for that. So, final question then: what is your favourite leadership book?
This. I have many, and actually, I hadn't read a leadership book or many until I met my business coach Oliver Hill, and he got me into reading a whole raft. And in fact, I have a morning routine where I kind of read chapters of a book, and I think there's a number of books that I've read that have been useful. But the first one is actually there's 3 books in the series, but it's a book called Metronomics, and it's about how you structure your business for growth and how you and all of the things that you put into your strategic plan for growing your business. So it talks about and it brings together lots of concepts from other books and other very successful public speakers and leadership book authors. So it talks about having a BHAG, so a big, hairy, audacious goal. Where does your business want to be in 10 years' time? So that phrase was coined by a guy called Jim Collins. And so Microsoft's big, hairy, audacious goal 30 years ago was to have a PC in every home, not on every desk, in every home. So, they obviously achieved that. So what is your BHAG? But then, okay, so that's 10, 15 years out. So that's got to be, it's not going to be exact, and there's not going to be a huge amount of detail around it, but it's a goal. But then it brings this thing called a 3HAG, so your three-year highly achievable goal, and then your 1HAG, so your 1 year highly achievable goal. And so you say, this is where I want to be, and then you work out everything that you need to do to get there. And then you think about the next 90 days. So every quarter, what am I going to do in the next 90 days that's going to take me to my 1HAG and my 3HAG? And then you look at all of the functions within your organization and you say, okay, so what KPIs do we have in each of these areas? And you set up your KPIs and look at your metrics, and then you see, based on the metrics, what part of your business is green, amber, or red, and all these sort of things. And I find it fascinating. It's a structure. I love it. It works. And yeah, I could read about it all day and work with it all day. In fact, we did Insight Legal use it, and CPL use it as well. And in fact, Insight had a growth coach for a couple of years, and I've just taken over facilitating those sessions and acting as coach to take that business on its journey. And I love it. I find it utterly fascinating. But I do love data, and I love metrics and these sort of things. And I love a plan. So that's that book. And the other one, actually, this one I could come up with about 4 or 5 different ones. But in fact, James Grove mentioned this one about his favorite leadership book, and he lives his life by it. And my business partner and CEO of Insight, Tim Smith, lives his life by Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Yeah. And that has some fundamentally great things in that book. It's all about how to treat people, and it's like, so praise in public, criticize in private. How many times you've been sitting in a room when someone's boss comes in and bollocks them right in front of everyone? The only person that's feeling good about that's your boss. Really? That's not good, So a huge amount of stuff in that book. And she talks about when she failed to fire someone very early on in her career, or not fire them, move them on, because at the end of the day, they're just not good with you. They could be great somewhere else, but keeping them, it's not doing you any good, not doing them any good, not doing their teammates any good. So I find that book fascinating. But to be honest, I could have picked Daniel Pink's Drive. Another one is fascinating. The Slight Edge is a great one from an Atomic Habits for habit stacking and these sort of things. But and the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Lencioni, that's an interesting challenge. I challenge any business leader to go and read that and then do the exercises in it. It's all about cohesive exec team. Because if you've not got a cohesive team at the top of your business, no matter what you do, you're not going to be successful. You need cohesion to allow you to be absolutely honest with each other to move a business on. Yeah. So there you go. Not one. I mentioned 4.
21.
But at the end of the day, and I continue to read them as well. One thing I did make a decision about, though, about 8-9 months ago, is not to keep reading, is just to take those courses. I've probably got about 10 core books, and I'd probably just read them all again, just to make sure that's because a lot of them is a variation on the same theme, yeah, or not the same theme, but variations of a theme. So to me, have your core ones that get you success in your own life, success in your development, and success in your business life, and that to me is the way to do it.
Super. Thank you so much. I think that's us done.
Thank you.